Hi, I'm Dr. Stephen Dunavant. I'm here today to share a new system with you to help you find more harmony in your life. My background is 30 years as an educator focusing on the application of personality theory. And what we're going to share today with you are just 3 brief questions. And those 3 questions are going to tell you a lot about yourself and the world around you. We call this MyDailyHarmonics. It's entirely free for your personal use. So, in just a moment, keep watching the video. I'll ask you those 3 brief questions, and you'll be able to better manage your day and pursue what we often call harmony throughout our lives. Are you ready? Let's have some fun. Let's start with a brief discussion on harmony. Harmony is a word most of us know. Many people think of music when someone mentions harmony. An increasing number of us associate it with quality of life. When we think of a harmonious life, we usually get thoughts associated with peace, balance, and fulfillment. Harmony within systems is essential to survival and prosperity. In music, the combination of notes that are in harmony with each other produce something called consonance. When the parts of any system are in harmony, that system can be said to be in consonance. Consonance is an agreement or compatibility between opinions or actions. In contrast, dissonance is a tension or clash resulting from the combination of 2 or more disharmonious or unsuitable elements. In psychology, inconsistency between the beliefs one holds or between one's actions and one's beliefs is sometimes described as dissonance. That range is what we refer to as harmonics, the harmonic range you can see here on the slide. Harmonics is the range of consonance to dissonance within any system or within your life. When it comes to harmony in your life, part of this is understanding who you are. Think of it as your core self. And part of it is understanding the many other influences in your life. You are indeed at the core of your daily harmonic life. Immediately surrounding this core is a layer of relationships with significant influence on your life. These are typically our partners, spouse, children, or maybe even close friends. Outside this layer is something we call occupations, across which we invest considerable time, such as work, hobbies, sports, and recreation. Finally, all of this is surrounded by an ascending range of community. For some, their religion or beliefs play a major role here at this layer and across all layers. Your neighborhood, nation, and the world at large all project different levels of influence on harmony in your life. However, it all begins with you. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you those 3 simple questions about yourself as we explore your personal harmonic type. It's important to note here that this is a self-assessment, so there's no right or wrong answers. Just relax and enjoy it. Grab a pen or pencil and something small to write on. Your personal harmonic type is grounded in 3 key psychometrics derived from 3 simple questions. Carl Jung is a well-known psychologist, and his personality theory was a very important central theory. He based his on 8 types, emphasizing what he called introversion and extroversion. The Daily Harmonic System is similar, using 8 types, but a bit different. I'm going to ask you those 3 basic questions to which you will write only 1 letter for each response. This will tell us how you perceive your world, how you construct your world, and how you engage your world. We need only these 3 letters to determine your personal harmonic type, or your PHT, and what we like to call your RU. RUs are imaginary characters we created to represent each psychological type in the system. They'll help you better understand yourself and others. Do you have that pencil? Let's begin. Question number 1 is based on perception. Perception is the first stage of experience. When we often see the world across a range of emotion and logic, that's how our brains are wired. Our emotions actually come first, as the fight or flight survival mechanisms are designed to respond immediately through something called the amygdala. Our brains process almost all learning emotionally first for this very reason. Yet, we often rely on logic to guide us as well. Which we apply at any given time varies, but most individuals, however slightly, tend to lean one or the other directions of emotion or logic. When you think about how you see the world, Are you more an emotional person or more a logical person? Write the letter E if you rely more on emotion, or the letter L if you rely more on logic. And remember, no one's entirely one or the other, as the gauge here indicates. Question number 2, construction. Construction follows perception. Immediately after taking in new information through our senses, we begin to process that data. Studies in the field of psychology have taught us a lot about human cognition. Once the new information is filtered, we do our best to store for what we need later. One constant in how we do this is called chunking. Human beings tend to group data into larger and preferably related units. Some prefer to focus on the discrete parts or the detail of that data in those chunks, while others appear to be more wired for that bigger picture, something we call a holistic view. So, when you think about how you construct your world, are you more holistic, a big picture person, or are you more detail driven? Some refer to this as seeing the entire forest versus focusing on each tree. So, write the letter H if you focus on the big picture, or the letter D if you focus on details. Again, no one is entirely one or the other, as the gauge here indicates, but we do tend to lean slightly toward the big picture holistic or the very detailed perceptions as we construct the world. Okay, you're doing great. Last question. Like I said, only 3 questions. Engagement. This is the last stage. Once we have perceived the world and constructed meaning, we then choose to act. We engage the world through our chosen behaviors. This is one of the most complex of all human activities, as the behaviors represent our conscious and subconscious values. In essence, we engage in a range of behaviors that we can see as either focused on ourselves, individualistic, or focused on others, altruistic. When you think about how you engage your world, are you more an altruistic person, spending a lot of time serving and thinking about others? Or are you more individualistic, attending to those self-needs we all have to? So write the letter A if you consider yourself more an altruistic person, or the letter I if you focus more on yourself. Here again, no one is entirely one or the other, as the gauge indicates. We tend to lean slightly in one direction or the other. A for altruistic, and I for individualistic. So, have you got those 3 letters? You should have an E or an L for the first letter, followed by an H or a D for the second letter, and finally an A or an I. These 3 letters together comprise your personal harmonic type, or what we call your RU. You may have noticed in each gauge on the previous slides that there were levels for each preference. While we all lean, however, slightly to one preference or the other for each domain, we do vary in our degrees of preference. For example, some of us may be a generally logical person, what we call an L3, while others may consider themselves extremely logical, like an L5. You can see the Cartesian graph here with that X, Y, Z axis. I know many of you may be going back to some math classes long ago. There are actually 1,000 different types when we combine those degrees. This is important later. Right now, let's just use those 3 letters to find out which RU you are. Alright, the fun part. As promised, 3 questions. Simply match your 3 letters here to find out which RU you are. If you're an LDA, you're a keeper RU. We think that's someone who's dedicated, perceptive, reliable, and very protective. If you're an LHI, you're what we call a loyal RU, very trustworthy, focused on loyalty and dependability, similar to the keeper RU, but a little bit different in productivity and how you see the world. The LDIs are our data RUs, very focused, very honest and unbiased, and attentive to both detail and how they interpret those details. The LHA, you're a Visaru, courage, curiosity, vision, very active and driven. That's that type of personality. Next come our emotional types of RUs, the EDA, the Morph-RU. The Morph-RU can become anything almost at any time. Versatility, very inquisitive, driven, and a tremendous listener. Next are EHAs, Chipperoos. I know quite a few Chipperoos, so generous and enthusiastic, the energetic volunteers of our families and communities. If you're an EDI, you're a wanderer, my daughter's a wanderer. Creative, intelligent, nomadic, and very talented. And finally, the EHI, the thriver. This is the opportunist, the questioner, the adapter, and the deep-seated thinker. So each of these personal harmonic types possesses a series of traits. Think of them as gifts and strengths they use in their personal and intrinsic lives, as well as their extrinsic life. That represents your core self, what we say as your root. You can find out a whole lot more about each of these types on our website, www.MyDailyHarmonics.com. So there's a lot to explore here, but it's all based and it all begins with you, your daily harmonic, your daily root. If we placed each root in that Cartesian grid we looked at earlier, it would look something like the three-dimensional cube pictured here. All the emotional root types are grouped opposite the logical. The holistics are opposite the detailed, and the altruistic are opposite the individualistic. The next step to consider is to give more thought to what degree of each type you might be in each dimension, and that's what's going to shift a little bit every day. Some days we're more emotional than other days. Some days we may have to rely upon our logic. So it's not typing like a lot of personality instruments saying you're always this, you're always an introvert, you're always an extrovert. Many of us shift from being holistic to becoming detailed. When I pay bills, I have to get pretty focused on details. But big picture is where I prefer to reside. Altruism versus individualism. We have to attend to our own needs and attend to the needs of others from time to time. Remember, this is a self-assessment instrument, and having no right or wrong answers, its meaning to you is what's most important, how you interpret it. But this is what we call the root cube. You see, while each of us has a preferred type, what I call our natural root, we vary in degrees both within that type and sometimes actually across other types. Think about it. Some days you have to be more emotional than others, or something happens in your life, and as I mentioned a moment ago, more logical. An emotional event in your life may push you toward a higher degree and even another type temporarily. This is a key revelation in the daily harmonics model. At times we nudge and even push ourselves to be more detailed than we are perhaps by nature. Typically, data-roos thrive on those days that demand attention to details, those household bills I mentioned, or those budgets, or maybe some planning, while a thriver-roo may struggle that day. That's not the natural domain of a thriver-roo. Take a look at this daily harmonic profile with degree slide, and feel free to come back to it. You can also download it for free at www.MyDailyHarmonics.com. If you begin each day asking yourself these 3 simple questions, you can better manage your life's harmonic changes. Consonance and dissonance can come from a variety of places. They're almost relentless, including your life outside yourself, something we're going to explore right now. And again, you can come back to this slide or print it for free from our website. So when it comes to harmony in your life, part of this is understanding who you are, that core self or root type you now know. And part of it's understanding the many other influences in your life. Just as you assessed yourself in determining your personal harmonic type, let's take a moment to think about those spheres of harmonic influence. That's what we call these. Are you in harmony both within and across those spheres? Most of us are not. Life presents so many challenges and beautiful opportunities in each of these spheres. So if we use the chart above, try to give yourself a score from 1 to 10, consonance to dissonance, for each sphere of influence. For example, think about your relationship sphere, your partner, spouse, children, or maybe even your close friends. On a scale of 1 to 10, what score would you record here? 1 would be extremely consonant. There's a lot of harmony there, where there's almost no disruption, maybe occasionally, and perhaps maybe too much consistency or consonance. A 3 would be, we get along, we're generally consonant, there's not a whole lot of disruption. Where most get along in that sphere, but with occasional disruption. A 6 moves into the degree where you see that sphere is overall containing more dissonance than consonance, even if just barely. With an 8 to 10 score, increasing levels of disruption. I think you can see the pattern here. Remember, this is a self-assessment instrument. Don't get too caught up in exact meanings for each sphere or that level. Record what you think based on what each sphere and level mean to you. Do this for all 3 spheres and then record your total. You can pause the video here if you're watching and think about this before we go to the next slide. Now, you should have a total score for your harmonic spheres of influence. This score represents an overall position on the daily harmonic scale that you can see here. Each position on that scale has advantages and disadvantages. Scores between 1 to 10 characterize what we call a consonant life. Scores from 11 to 20, a centered life. And scores from 21 to 30, a dissonant life. Take a moment to read about each and the harmonic responses you can consider. If you're watching the video here, you can pause it before going on. The point of this exercise in the Daily Harmonics System is to offer you a tool that you can use to assess each day and your life overall. Life is a constant harmonic movement. To meet its shifting demands, most of us turn to a strategy we call harmonic masking. We'll look at that next, but take a moment, pause the video. Are you leading a consonant life, 1 to 10? Are you leading a centered life, 11 to 20? Or are you leading a dissonant life? All have advantages and disadvantages. Just give that a little bit thought before you go on. This is what we call masking. It's a well-known term in psychology. Some days we think we're wearing a harmonic mask to achieve harmony in that world. It may be moving from work to family or across different hobbies or social groups or your church or belief systems as you surround yourself with others of like minds and pursue people with different minds. Many times we keep that internal roux to ourselves and put on a mask of varying degrees. A slight shift in only one dimension may be all that's required. Other days we must attempt to shift to greater degrees. Shifting your roux on one dimension can assist you in meeting the challenges of each day. The table here shows which shifts should be easier for you based on your type. The greater the degree of change or duration of change, the heavier the burden of that masking. So it's a little bit easier for a loyal roux to take on the mask of a data roux or a visa roux to shift to being a chipper roux, moving from that big holistic vision to chipping in on a team, or from a thriver roux to become a wanderer. And it's a lot harder when you try to shift more than one of those dimensions. For example, if you look at loyal roux and morpher roux, they're exact opposites in every dimension. The point here is to spend as little time as possible away from your personal harmonic type or your natural roux, and to acknowledge those days when the burden of that masking may be greater than others. Unlike most personality systems, we see daily shifts, that each day your harmonics are going to likely shift. Sometimes these changes are intrinsic and occur within ourselves. At other times, life's challenges come from external sources. Briefly reflecting on these harmonic changes each day can be a rewarding experience. That's the hope of this system. You can see here a summary of the overall approach. Begin by thinking about your PHT or your roux type degrees in those 3 dimensions. For example, do you feel like an E1 emotion, or are you amped up a little bit and you're an E3 today? Maybe you know you have a major task that demands more logic, or maybe it's creative brainstorming, and that's going to drive you and shift that harmonic balance. Such tasks may be outside your preferred types, or you could be perfectly aligned. The next step is to consider your spheres of harmonic influence, those things that are happening outside of you. What do you think your score across those levels looks like today? Sometimes they stay stable across time, and other times they shift. A quick self-assessment each day can go a long way toward maintaining harmony in your life as you constantly respond to the consonance and dissonance that's shifting almost every day. This is the MyDailyHarmonics System approach. A quick reflection each day toward greater harmony whenever possible. Remember, it's all free for individual use. Download and print copies for each day if you want to. Feel free to share this with your family, friends, and groups to better understand each other. It's a different way of looking at, maintaining, and responding to those harmonic shifts. I hope you've enjoyed exploring your root type and the MyDailyHarmonics System. Be sure to visit our website at www.MyDailyHarmonics.com. There you'll find a wide range of free resources, deeper descriptions of each root type, mind maps, guides on how to work and live with other root types, and a lot more. If you're so inclined, you'll see access to some pretty neat t-shirts, cups, posters, and more for each root type that are available for purchase. As mentioned, though, the system is free for your personal use. If you'd like to have your group or organization use it, feel free to contact me and I'll be happy to talk to you about organizational culture harmonics. I wrote a book with my colleague on that. We have a full book on that system as well. Look for more video episodes across our social media platforms under the My Daily Harmonics tag, and subscribe. You can reach me at sdonovan@gmail.com. You can see the spelling here on the slide, or at anavenoconsulting.com. That's my consulting group. For further comments and questions. I really hope each of you leads that ideal harmonic life you deserve amidst all the change we're going through and the challenges of our lives. So until we meet again, I'm Dr. Stephen Donovan, and stay safe, my fellow Rubes.